For years, the library has been approached by various patrons to develop such a group, and at last we have an unclaimed time slot and a responsible group leader to maintain it. The leader of this new group will be Jesse Stowe, an active writer who has his master's from OU in creative writing. By all accounts, Mr. Stowe is an affable, intelligent person and takes an interested yet easygoing approach toward peer-led writers' groups. This new group will follow the same procedure as the poetry group, wherein each person gets to a turn reading a piece of his or her work, and then his or her peers give constructive feedback. The group will embrace all forms of prose writing, including short stories, novels, memoirs, biographies, essays, nonfiction articles, etc. We hope that by offering two kinds of writing groups, in which each cater to one of the two essential divisions of writing, we will better serve the needs of creative writers in the community. If your schedule permits it, please check out what this alternative group has to offer starting 10 a.m. on Tuesday, January 5th. We really want this new group to get off to a good start, and we appreciate any writer here who would attend at least once to give it a fair chance of success. Thank you for your time.
Congratulations to the library.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yes, it
That's
is. It's great.
We're very pleased.
Yeah.
And the person, he's just so excited. Every time I exchange emails with him, he said he's been wanting to do this for a long time, so.
Yeah, I was in a workshop that he directed a number of years ago. And he is enthusiastic and supportive and all that sort of thing. But I want to know why your announcement wasn't in poetry.
It's prose.
Yeah, right, it's appropriate, right? It's a prose prepared statement. A little alliteration at least.
Yes. No, I think that's great.
Yeah.
So we should tell people.
Yeah, and so one thing I may do, since not everyone could make it, I'll leave this here. And if anyone wants to share it next time you guys have a meeting with those that weren't able to attend this time, who should I leave it with?
We could copy it.
I could email one of you with it as an attachment, and then
Yeah, that'd be good.
can I get your email or?
Yes.
Okay.
I think is that when our group is at its maximum attendance, time becomes precious,
Yeah.
and that sometimes we waste time in that people are circulating stuff when we could have.
For colors, I've never cared much for red. It means stop, danger, fire. I can't wear red. It is too busy. Except for my red Wonder Woman t-shirt. Once in a great while. And I want to go first because I'm burning up.
Wonderful.
That is priceless.
Up in the sky recently.
I was
This is a
flying
gift from
these
my
days.
granddaughter.
That's adorable.
That's
Good for her.
great. Good
You
for
have
you.
to have a photograph to accompany you.
Well, you
Can
twirl
I-
too.
Can we go my way instead
Yes.
of
Go your way.
because I have no,
Going my.
no need to be long, have long tails. A dragonfly's eye can have over 8,000 compound eyes. Imagine one of these insect marbles flat on a table. What each eye can see is something the others cannot, but all together they compose a compound picture. Now, another leap from really small to really big. Imagine the insect's eye is half of the sun, laying there like a brilliant cabochon. Each part of the sun throws off plasma in all directions, all the time. Protons, small masses of energy, are present and are so small that we humans cannot measure their mass or trajectory. But let's say one, on a late summer afternoon, while I'm sitting talking to friends, having a before supper drink, crashes into an ice cube in my gin and tonic, which I squeezed a lime slice. When the proton slams into the ice cube, it's traveling at the speed of light. In fact, it's been traveling toward my glass for 8 minutes. Now, when I think about that, I start to wonder about things like friction, just like I wondered about the dragonfly's eye and how the insect kept the eye moistened against the friction the eyes would encounter in flight. When the proton fell into the next ice cube, its speed was much less. The third cube almost stopped it, but the fall continued and the proton entered into a pore of the lime rind and then slipped into an unbroken sack of lime juice. There it rested, still warm, full of energy, but encased in icy juice and gin.
It's a happy proton
Juice
though.
and gin.
As I put the kitchen back into order, I dump my drink remains into the compost pot. Later, this is carried out behind the garage and thrown into the compost pile. By midnight, the deer have come to browse. The piece of lime iron is chewed and swallowed. The mighty proton is now in the gut of a deer. Her heat stirs the proton. It starts moving and exploring her body, settling minutes later in her brain, where there seems to be more activity for the proton to experience. Addendum. Within a month or so of settling in the proton, had the deer, I think something's wrong there.
Settling in the deer, I think.
Yeah,
In the
the
brain.
deer watching television in one, had the deer watching television in one of the neighborhood houses, learning how to laugh, learning, or rather teaching the people who came to see her how to ask questions she could answer. Within 5 months, 25 states had banned deer hunting. It was being said that in 5 years they would have a representative in Congress. Pro-evolutionists who rate this advance in deer intelligence. Anti-evolutionists claimed it was a farce. Several church groups demanded the deer be forfeited.
Oh, my God.
That is a
I wonder if it-
In the third stanza, fourth line, you might have said, it meant, let's say that I, on a late
Oh,
summer
okay.
afternoon.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not big on that.
That works.
Yeah, that's,
And,
Which, this,
I think,
I saw your mighty pen at work.
oh yeah, well, there are a couple things, but, I think with the addendum in that first line, if you had within a month or so of settling in, comma, the proton had the deer watch,
Okay,
that would,
yeah, that changed my reading, I didn't get it
Mhm.
right.
and two minor things for me. I think you noticed this past summer, we had some absolutely gorgeous days, and late afternoon, there'd be flocks, herds, swarms of dragonflies flying all over in my farm down by that lake. And it was just neat. And then also, it should be lying rather than laying.
yes,
And
that
some-
was one of the things I marked.
That is my one pet peeve with English, about English grammar, that I always bring up.
Mhm.
Because unless you have a shillelagh, you cannot use the word laying in a sentence. If you shillelagh, you can lay around with a shillelagh as much as you want, but
Or you could lay the book on the table,
yeah, but that's not.
that's correct.
Yeah, it's correct, but it's not as fun as a shillelagh, though.
But it is the problem with, lay and lie, people,
People don't know. I mean, you see it on TV all the time, and
Oh, yeah.
it just fries my buns.
better,
I think I went through this with
It does,
many
it just-
English
It starts
professors.
sizzling.
I went through this, Chris, with many English professors. And I think it comes around to its common usage. We are free to use whichever we choose. If we choose to be incorrect for a certain section of the reading public, that's okay.
Well, it's okay, but
If you're going with common usage, we're all gonna have to start dropping F-bombs all over the place because that's a very common thing these days. And I ain't gonna do it.
Vulgarity is no replacement for wit.
That's-
Yes.
I missed that.
Yeah, what an idea.
Oh, vulgarity.
I love it.
I thought you said clarity. And I couldn't make any sense out of what you said.
Just something.
Does this work of yours belong in the prose group or the poetry group?
Oh, definitely.
It's,
What do you think?
I wonder what you think
Well,
and
being
why.
a person who's curious, I wonder more what you think.
The ballot of Trump on the stump.
You know, I've
If he
never
wins, I'm,
never thought of doing a ballad, but it occurs to me, ballads are typically done from some cultural hero or villain. You know, that's where the ballads come from. So maybe we have a candidate here, at least in the last 6 months or so. So anyway, I labored at this, which is not worth it. But anyway, the Ballad of Trump on the Stump. Fair Donald was a simple man, no troubled artisan he, following on his father's plan, a rich kid he would be. A man of style and high-toned class. Some would not agree. Was he a crass and comic ass? His name displayed for all to see. A handsome man with well-combed hair, as blonde as it could be. Its thinning led him to swear, a bald pate no one will see. His comb-over, a projecting prow. We wonder, can it be? It made a roof atop his brow. At this most gawk, oh gee. He claimed outstanding managing skill. He chose bankruptcy. His boss behavior rated nil. You're fired if not agreed. He praised the color of his skin, none equal could ever be. Those who could not be his twin had better this country flee. If born south of the border, a rapist, that guy must be. If not a cocaine snorter, he does do burglary. A Syrian is not welcome here, a terrorist, she or he. Those bums set off rational fear. Bombers they'll surely be. Americans need someone to hate, so superior they can be. Trump will send that one to a dreary fate from America the free. His claims are often wildly wrong, though he'll praise his memory. His knowledge says it makes him belong with those we call brainy. His opposing candidates are weak, soft as lingerie. He can throw a punch and give a tweak to all the snouts nosy. With his most excellent mind and mouth for profanity, if you don't vote for him, he'll find that you're a big dummy. So make America great again, a time this Trump can see. Just vote for him as often as you can. You'll see how easy it will be.
Oh,
There's,
Trump as lingerie was inspired, I have to say. Absolutely.
there's a classic form of the ballad which has a iambic tetrameter followed by a trimeter, followed by a tetrameter, and followed by a trimeter, and that makes a stanza in ballad. And I tried to stick with that, and the thoughts are too complicated or something like that to bring it out. Maybe it's easier with holding up a bank or some kind of villain like that, I don't know, or hero.
What's an example of a ballad that follows that form?
I don't have any in front of me.
what about Noise is the Highwayman?
Pardon?
Noise is the Highwayman.
Does it follow
I don't know, I'm
that?
saying that's,
Yeah, I know
That's a
that it's
classic.
there, but
There's a there's a classic
I could
poem.
look some up and find them for you,
yeah,
but I don't know.
Barbara Allen is a ballad, and does it follow that pattern? I'm just,
Yeah, well, the first stanza, for example, sounds balladish, doesn't it? Fair Donald was a simple man, no troubled artisan he. Following on his father's plan, a rich man he would be. So you lay the foundation and then you knock it off with the trimeter, and then 4 and then 3. You know,
Yeah.
it fits a nice little pattern, and yeah, especially I guess if it's set to music.
yeah, and
I'm not about to do that.
there are things you can do if it's set to music that won't work if you're just reading it on the page, and you can stretch out a word or, anyway, it was a fun exercise.
Yes.
I'm interested if any of you have thoughts about which of these stanza should be cut out, because it seemed I tried to make a stanza out of every little thought I had about the character of this fellow. But,
We're gonna make a
and I did 2 or 3 of them myself and then struck them out. So,
I wish we could have struck the whole poem.
No,
Not because of what you wrote, but because we have to deal with this
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
You know, I wish we
But
didn't have
the
to
whole
fight
year
about it.
too.
Are
Year
there
plus.
any dump Trump sticker, bumper
Dump
stickers?
trump, there ought to be,
Trump.
right. I
Dump
mean,
trump.
it's a pretty good word for rhyming.
Yeah, it is.
Put it out there.
Oh, you could check
I don't wanna put them on my car, I might get killed.
check at the import house, because they've got all kinds of bumper stickers up there. Are you gonna send this to the Donald?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll qualify to be on his list, but it would be wonderful.
You could go to one of his rallies and stand up and say, read it, and they'll throw you out.
Okay,
He's a danger.
okay, there it is.
Okay, this is a start on something I've been thinking about. Why forgive? Will to forgive. How to forgive. Forgiveness is an act of courage that dissipates our feelings of rage. Forgiveness is an act of love, like the love of our Lord above, who with love he has forgiven me, which has set me free from my feelings of despair when my broken relationships I've failed to repair. Due to my feelings of rejection of another and of me, but my loving forgiveness sets both of us free to live, to love, to a better life, free from our anger toward each other, and freedom from strife. Thus, with God's help, I choose to avoid my natural instinct to angry mugging, but to forgive as an act of loving that may happily lead us to hearty hugging. And this is by Larian, this season of Thanksgiving and Christmas giving.
Nice. Yeah,
Very
very
cool.
good.
Does forgiving, what typical response is offered to forgiving? Like the guy that shot up the South Carolina church members, you know, and the church members say, we forgive this this person.
And that was
Well,
for them.
what does
them, I
that
think.
do?
That was
I
just for
think if-
them.
Yeah, I think forgiving is an internal, personal thing, because you don't, seldom do people say to someone, I forgive you. I think what you do is you, in your own mind, you are willing to,
Rationalize the
Yeah.
behavior.
I don't know, I'm not necessarily a forgiving person, so I don't know.
Yeah, well, is it a weak alternative to rage? Huh?
Why did you use the word weak
Yeah, that's
alternative?
what I.
Because rage is much more energetic instead you call it, oh, I forgive you.
No, it takes a very strong person to forgive.
Well, but also, if you say to someone who's
You think so?
insulting,
Oh, yeah.
it can be very
Oh, sure,
demeaning too.
Definitely, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Okay.
strong person who means it.
Yeah,
And what is
Yeah.
the object of that forgiving?
Forgiveness is a very pure cleansing, and it is the time. Now, I know you're not a Christian and you're anti-Christ, and I think that goes without saying. But it is
Absolutely.
when we forgive, that is when we are most like God, because all humans are in need of forgiveness, whether we acknowledge it or not, whether we think it or not, believe it or not. Forgiveness is extremely powerful, extremely powerful.
Larry, to deal with your poem,
Okay, thanks.
I think the title could be Forgiveness. I don't think we need
doesn't need all that.
a 3-line title.
Right.
But that's just the way I look. And the first line of the second stanza, I think it, who with love has forgiven me, take out that he. Because, you know, the line above you say, you name our Lord above, and then who with love has forgiven me. You don't need the he.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that really long line down there at the bottom of the middle stanza, free from our anger toward each other and freedom from strife. I think if free from our anger and free from strife might, I don't think toward each other is necessary, and free and freedom aren't necessarily parallel, which would be, I think parallelism would be good. What do you think? You're the English teacher.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that line could. Also, the last stanza, it had a nice rhyme scheme throughout, and then suddenly it changed
Yeah.
in the last stanza.
Couldn't keep it together.
You can keep
How about if we
together.
give him an ing word instead of a choose? Selecting, I don't know. I am selecting. Thus, with God's help, I am selecting to
Well, that
avoid
wouldn't-
my natural instinct of angry mugging.
That still wouldn't make it rhyme. If you had choosing, mugging, loving, mugging, because choosing and loving don't rhyme, and you do have it does, as he said, you had a good rhyme scheme, whatever he said, scheme going.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy, Larry, you admitted your natural instinct is angry mugging. That's getting near the dark side.
And that's why I am challenged this late in life to try to figure this out.
Never too late.
Okay,
How long did it take you to write this?
Well, I've been kind of thinking about this topic for 2 weeks. But for writing this, it was probably 3 hours.
How long?
About 3 hours.
Write what you feel, she said. Withdrawn, I thought. When you feel that way, what do you like to do? Sleep, I thought. And most like to say. Silence. Are we making any progress, she asked. I got up to leave. Where are you going, she asked. Down a gopher hole that goes on and on and on. Aha, I've returned to the womb. Are you down here with me? Write what you feel, she answered.
Wow.
That's great.
Okay, the other one. Yeah, I was sitting there at my desk thinking, how do I feel?
Oh, I'm glad that there's two of them.
Well, it's been marked out. All I have is Aeneas.
Hmm?
All I have is Aeneas. The rest of it's been.
Substituted for therapy.
Maybe it's supposed to be Mr. Aeneas instead of Miss Aeneas.
I got to heaven, but God is a black transgender. Was he carrying? Couldn't tell, but since he said Black Lives Matter, I figured I was in the wrong place, so came back on down here.
What was he carrying me?
Huh?
Gun, firearm.
Oh,
What?
oh, okay.
What?
I didn't know what was he carrying meant.
What'd you say?
What's it usually means a gun of some persuasion.
Oh,
Or,
what?
or a big knife.
You have a concealed carry
Yeah.
permit.
Yeah. But you go to Texas.
Where did God get it then?
Pardon?
Where did God get the concealed carry permit? Feeling about the dear Donald. Okay, if only we could excise the id from the Donald, as we've excised the penis from good old Sigmund. All that would be left is a perpetual fish face on the Hindenburg, pre-explosion of course. A German ship and a German superego, or psychological castration, would leave only a realtor with no bridge to sell.
That was great.
Wow.
Oh, fish face with all the people doing on magazine, pretty lips forward so they look pouty and stupid.
Okay, but what's this? Is this 1 degree mental?
Primary mental anal sphincter. The top of the anal sphincters.
Number one, the number
Is this the
one.
Is that a footnote?
No, it's a degree. Well, I said before I read the poem. It's a degree sign, but I don't have it on my typewriter. It's ahead of my computer. The best anal sphincter in America.
So this is the title.
Yeah.
Okay. Title.
Say it one more time.
I'm sure when we put this on the air, we might get bombed.
No, there are no naughty words in it at all.
I know. Jeez, I drove all the way from Columbus for this.
Her son, if you want to, but not her. Yeah, I like him too. Okay, trust me. I can't promise a thing. Anyway, you want too much. Always have. Total happiness and such. Only good books, plus the right bling. It doesn't matter one bit. You can deny yourself at times. You think you're Julian Fellows with the last line. Only your imagination's too limited for it to sit, as well as natural selection. No offense, my dear, but it's true. Plus, your lack of faith in the miraculous makes me blue. Too much convention is under detection. Would you please just let go? Wake up like the birds and sing. Pretend it's your birthday or you're having a fling. The plot development is better than you know. So,
I really like that last line.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the old let go and let God.
I hear that it's, what I hear, Matt, is that the journey is more important than the goal.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably true too. Yeah, yeah. So.
I love the rhyme scheme. I didn't see it at first, but I picked it up. We went along. It was nice.
Once you shot that, I had a rhyming scheme. I was shocked. I thought I'm going to be Sven-like.
I like the idea of mixing the arts like that.
Yeah.
And I was at a workshop a couple of weeks ago where they had people telling a story through dance, so that it was a narration of a story at the same time there was a dance. And it was really powerful, so you get
Yeah.
that mixture,
No,
really.
we do, because since especially since we had some medals to go through on your turn. No. I love to dance, so I was sure.
Beautiful work.
Yeah.
Sit down with a quiet time.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay. I took as my prompt my favorite characters from Shakespeare, the three witches who appear in Macbeth in Act 3. From a poetic point of view, they're interesting. Most of Shakespeare is in blank verse of iambic pentameter without rhyme, but the exception are the witches. They always rhyme in couplets, double, double, boiling trouble, everybody knows that. But one of the lines in Macbeth that I take as my prompt is, by the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. By the tingling of her thumbs, you can predict the future. Okay, terrorism is the title. The premonitions and dreadful distaste of Shakespeare's wishes are now replaced by terrorism experts with worried faces, seeing wicked ways coming in many places. They project for us a nightmare fate, forecasting horrors that won't abate. There's havoc homegrown madmen create, plus ISIS implementing its slate of hate. We shudder and shake as they debate our ominous future, menacing, desolate. Is repulsive evil such a ubiquitous trait? Is gloomy angst our new normal state? Not very cheerful.
Been a hell of a week or so that we've had.
Yeah.
Well, after the bombing of the center,
Planned Parenthood,
Planned
yeah.
Parenthood, I thought, my God, what's next?
Yeah,
You
what's
can't go to
next?
school, you can't go to a
You can get an abortion.
healthcare center, you can't go to a.
See you later, maybe.
Sure.
You can't
So I'll
to
go
Paris.
underground, like down the gopher hole.
Anyway.
Well, in this nation, we have two prime examples, at least two, of terrorism, one being the mafia,
Yeah.
where you couldn't hope to have your business last.
If they really want to strike terror in our hearts, they'll go into an elementary school somewhere and they'll kill children. Well, that did happen, but it wasn't ISIS. It was
Right.
a homegrown American boy.
It's very atavistic. I mean, that's the it's the reptilian brain back here that governs breathing and heart rate. That we get afraid and we act irrationally. It's just like the people who want boots on the ground over in Iraq and Iran and in Syria. That's what the terrorists want. They want a full-blown fight with America, just another Vietnam. Because that'd be.
Yeah, the shootings in the schools and the theater and so on are more a case of personal nuttiness rather than the quest for a terror response in the population.
Well, I think I have said, Felix has heard me say this many times going around in circles down at the gym, that I think they should, maybe the first time they can give the name of these shooters. And then from then on, they just refer to them as the shooter. And not, just depersonalize them. A name as writ on water as, was it Keats or Yeats?
Patricia, the media.
Oh, I know that.
The
It's just-
availability of means of transportation of information today, you can't stop it.
But I think that.
You can turn off the electricity and just don't work on batteries. I'm sort of trying to picture how these continual bombings by the United States and other nations, now France and Russia, what they are doing to this so-called caliphated homeland, because they would seem that the unexpected but continual bombing takes away any ability of these people to govern an area or to produce the necessary equipment and personnel to handle the jobs of maintaining their hold
Who
over
are
the
the,
area.
what do you mean by these people?
The ISIS,
Okay.
or whatever they want to call them. They,
Well, I know people named ISIS want them to stop calling them ISIS.
I want them to stop beheading
Cyrus.
people. Which one is going to come first? Yeah.
I think,
Let's get back to poetry,
yes.
Yes, let's do.
if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Good idea.
Thank you. I have, the reason I want to do that is because I have been struggling, I guess, ever since I started coming to this group with the question of what is a poem. You know, you even asked the question today whether Joy's poem was prose or poetry. Or we've asked that question many times and whether it would rhyme or not. So a friend of mine sent me a very famous passage that was Dwight Eisenhower's Cross of Iron speech, and I took a part of it, and I realized that this is poetry. So I turned the Cross of Iron speech, or part of it anyway, I didn't do the whole thing, into a poem, and I wanted to see how it works.
Where was the Cross of Iron first published, or?
It was, I don't remember where it was first published or whether it was given in 1953.
It was a speech.
It was a speech.
I'll pass it on.
I have a second one on the back, but anyway, we'll do the Cross of Iron first. And so this is part of Dwight Eisenhower's speech. I believe it was to Congress, I'm not really sure. Anyway, it was sent to me, and this is what happened to it. A cross of iron. Every gun that is made, every warship launched, every rocket fired, signifies in the final sense a theft from those who hunger and are not fed, those who are cold and are not clothed. This world in arms is not spending money alone. It is spending the sweat of its laborers, the genius of its scientists, the hopes of its children. This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense. Under the clouds of war, it is humanity hanging on a cross of iron.
Yeah, well, it's clearly a speech in the sense that there's an audience that is out there to be moved in a particular direction. And not that it's not good, I mean, it's...
Well, Churchill did even more of a poet than most of American politicians are. I mean, the cadence of his speeches was pretty tremendous.
Eisenhower?
No, Churchill.
Churchill.
Church.
Winnie
Okay.
baby.
Well, he was certainly a great writer.
Yeah.
Well, like Lincoln too. You know, just the Gettysburg Address is a mind-blowing speech and/or poem. I mean, it's,
Well, some poems I think are made, I call them my letter to the editor poems, you know, in a sense. They're to the editor.
Well, when you hear some really good speakers, political speakers, such as Churchill, they have a cadence,
yeah.
Yeah.
a rhythm that makes them sound somewhat poetic. You know, if it is in the manner of delivery, as much as it is the words.
Well, I have a dream, one day.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's a very good one.
Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King,
It often
they're
involves
the
repetition
family.
of certain things.
Exactly, that's another thing.
Like
yes.
every gun that is made, every warship launched,
Right.
every rocket fired,
Right.
yeah.
This reminds me of William Jennings Bryant's famous Cross of Gold speech. It's another image that's very powerful, symbol, obviously, to a lot of listeners there. How much did you have to change it to make it more poetic?
Well, I took the exact words.
These are exact words.
These are the words,
You
yeah.
just arrayed them and.
I just-
What he did is on the other side.
Oh, sorry, oh, excuse me, I didn't see that.
This is mine, that's
Oh,
mine.
all right, okay. I got you, all right. Right, the other.
If this one's yours, why did you sign Dwight Eisenhower's name to it?
I did give Dwight Eisenhower credit
Oh,
for this.
Full credit.
All right,
Yes,
gotcha.
I thank you and he does.
You can see me.
Okay.
He didn't do the white space.
No. I did, on the back, I tried something else a little bit different. I was, when driving down the highway, I realized that road signs can be poetic. So this is called The End of the Road. Dried branches on barren trees, seeking sunlight in vain. Middletown, 4 miles, exit 39 east. A litter-strewn creek that no longer flows, struggling to breathe. Last exit permitted for commercialized vehicles. Fertile farms devoured by hungry suburbs yearning for redemption. Food, gas, lodging, next exit, keep right. A deer carcass lies on the shoulder. Live carcasses bounding away. Slower vehicles use left lane, maintain speed. Dazed human beings continuing to expand, consume, pollute. Highway ends 1,000 feet ahead.
Burma shave.
I liked Burma shave better.
No, but I had to go to Gallup Police, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And there's a whole bunch of signs between here and Gallup Police. And I found myself doing this, you know, as I was going down the road, because it's boring between here and, but I like the way you put these together.
I do too.
It's like Nan's poem some time ago about driving to Gallipolis, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
And the sign that was
well
painted on the
done.
building about, I forget what it said, but it's something about somebody lives here or whatever. Anyway, it's, I can't. No.
Was the choice to abandon your usual rhyming deliberate?
Yes, it was, because I don't, I really like a rhyming poem, I really do. I like the feel of it, I love the ballad, love the scheming that you, I mean, I think that makes, what makes a poem, but, so yeah, it was, I struggle with trying to get a rhyme, trying to get a poem out of something that doesn't have any rhythm or rhyme to it.
Yeah.
I like that live carcasses.
Live, yeah.
Well, no, because they are alive. They are feeding, you know, bugs, vultures, possums, raccoons,
Skunks.
skunks, yeah.
A thought, Tom, because it seems like you give a line from yourself and then a line from a sign. Why not leave a space in between the next?
I did, there was an attempt at pairing those, but not exactly. Yeah, but, so I would rather,
Well, I feel
You
it.
can
I
do
feel
that.
like you did.
It's good.
Well, my progress is too. Hunting season begins today around here. Hunting season starts. Deer hunting season starts today.
No, yesterday.
I thought Monday. Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was going to say, having myself played the role of a speechwriter for more important people in my hierarchies of life, I wonder whether Dwight Eisenhower wrote these lines or some clever speechwriter did it.
Sure.
As Ted Sorensen wrote many of the lines we attribute to Kennedy,
Well, and
I think Churchill probably wrote his own stuff.
well, I've heard that he didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
Yeah.
He had helpers.
Yeah.
Well, it's just an interesting question, you know, before we think of, we quote Eisenhower a lot, you know, we quote about his condemning the military-industrial complex, but he probably didn't think that thought. It was put in his mind by a speechwriter.
I sat next
It was
to him on the
crystallized.
stage at Rice University when he delivered that talk.
Oh, did you
I
really?
did. I
Oh,
did.
goodness.
The military industrial complex one?
Yeah, I'm gonna, yeah.
It was, I mean, I was like, oh, God.
Very surprising to come out of the mouth of
Yeah.
a soldier, and it was
Yeah.
speechwriters.
Well, an interesting thing I think should be said in this context is that it is not infrequent that an orator will choose a poem or a part of a poem as part of his speech.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
yeah. So there's a definite relationship there. Some poems really work then as an oration or parts of it.
I think the Richardson and Macbeth would be great for a cookbook.
Near the last stanza in the across Iron poem. I wondered if it is the way you want it.
Okay. How so?
Which one is
What
this?
would you
last
suggest?
stanza.
The on and crossing line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wondered if it was the way you wanted it.
And the highway ends at 1,000 feet ahead?
Well,
This is not a way of life at all, in any true sense.
Well, that's not his poem, that's Eisenhower's.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Those are Eisenhower's exact words.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I thought you were
didn't
gonna-
realize that.
Talk about the line.
I can't
creation.
talk to Dwight today.
Well, you could argue about
There's the.
the line
poem.
endings created by Tom, but I'm not.
I had a thought.
Okay.
For the Monday evening poets group, we use prompts, and the prompt was ghost. So that's what this is from. Haunting. Always the specter seems to rise, reaching hands, accusing eyes, the thing that's dead but never dies, the harsh and strangulated cries. The muted sound of shuffling feet, a sudden burst of stifling heat, following driving rain and sleet, and always that begging, crying bleat. Who this is I do not know, or why it cries and suffers so. I cannot help at all, and though I can't, the spirit stays, it will not go.
Wow, that's spooky, that's a Halloween one.
yeah, that's great.
Haunting.
Ann mentioned the radio treatment of the road not taken. Did you hear that? by
Yeah,
any
I
chance?
haven't checked it out. I did see the,
Yeah.
I heard it.
You heard it, yeah, it was
Yeah.
very, very interesting to see what these poetic experts make of it, or don't make of it, and how they stumble and fumble around trying to decode what Frost was really up to, you know? It's
I
interesting.
couldn't get over how poor of a reader thought Frost was. He had such a scratchy voice, and that he didn't seem to be glorying in the words at all. I mean,
well, he's notorious for being a poor reader of his own
he was,
poetry. Yeah.
This sounds like something poor Edgar Allan would have written on a bad day.
Oh, Edgar Allan. Well, I was just trying to
Yeah.
write to
Scare us.
Ghost.
Yeah, well, it's Frost's iambic tetrameter that you have adopted, especially that last stanza, where who this is, I do not know. Whose woods these are, I do not know.
Or my version, whose woods these are, I do not care. His house is in the village where he is in.
so I can go tramping wherever you want.
It's written from the point of view of the horse.
Okay.
So did you ever see a ghost?
Did I ever see a ghost? No.
I just wondered how you knew about the stifling heat.
If you want to hear You weren't here the last time, and I don't, did I bring both of the poems about, my, first memory?
You did at least one.
That was the one about, was that about the, blood poisoning? Or was it the one about?
The fire.
The fire,
Fire.
yeah. Cause I thought that, I thought of you with that I thought you were gonna say, did this really happen to you? Cause you do that when poems have an I, persona. You always wanna know, is this
I
really
know,
you?
that's not
Ruth,
always.
there's a story you're not telling us.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you
Has anybody?
drop your groceries or something when you saw this ghost? Or stumble up the stairs? Was the ghost at the top of the stairs?
I didn't see the ghost.
Oh, you did, okay.
But my brother did.
Well, for me, the ghost was coming up the stairs.
There's often stairs involved.
So you saw a ghost? Maybe.
I had a dream.
Oh, they always say it's a dream.
Something. How do I know? I was 7 or 8 years old. Very impressionable.
And it stuck
Is
with
everybody
you.
listening?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was working at the University of Central Florida, we were looking for a downtown center, and I was able to negotiate an old funeral home in the center of Orlando to be our downtown center. It was given to us because people couldn't sell it, I understand. So anyway, it was given to the university, and after it was renovated, it was in a downtown near a kind of a seedy section of downtown Orlando, and we had a police officer that would at night be in the building and make sure that he was not, it's like a security guard, and close up and check in on the place and so forth. So I got to know the police chief very well in Orlando, because that was my job. I was director of outreach for the university. So one day I was called in by the chief of police of Orlando, and he said, we started talking. He said, "Tom, I just want you to know that I don't want to send a police officer over there anymore." He said, "The last police officer that was there said he will never go in that building again." That and this was a guy who probably didn't believe in ghosts, whatever. He saw a figure coming down the stairs into the lobby and he was startled by it. It was a man in a black suit, funeral director perhaps, and that he got startled and he went to leave and he turned around and it was gone. So we had other incidents in that funeral home. So up until that time, I didn't believe in ghosts too much. But when I got a report from the police department, that there was ghosts.
I would beware the southerner with ghost stories. We used to have parties where we tried to scare the Jesus out of each other with these stories. And everybody did it. Parents, kids, grandparents, they all had that experience.
Okay. Yeah, hallucinations that humans are capable of partaking
They're
of
susceptible.
are,
I
unending.
know, but if you're raised with any Celtic blood in you, I mean, obviously, it's not a matter of environment, but genetics, I suppose. But
Racial
even so, you just accepted it as a matter of course. Of course, there's a spirit world. Of course, it's close to us. The fairies, all the little
The sheep.
people are part of that.
I think it's rather sweeping to say if you have any Celtic blood at all, since I do.
And you don't.
And when I was in Ireland, people kept saying, you're of Irish descent, aren't you? And I'd say, well, yeah, but how do you know? And say, we can tell by looking at your eyes, you've got the ringed eyes, you've got second sight. And I said, I don't think so.
She never showed them her large green big toes, so they couldn't say that she was kin to the green man.
My friend, when I was telling her that, she said, does that mean double vision? And I said, no.
What do you mean Muriel came to you after her death?
Marianne and her family lived in Indonesia, and I lived with my family in Malaysia. And in those cultures, ghosts are very important.
Prevalent.
Hantu, they call them, and they live in trees, they're in doorways, and they've got names, very specific hauntings that they do, and very specific remedies. And who you call when a ghost comes, you need to call a particular kind of bomo to go exercise the place, and it's quite fascinating.
Yeah. America's had its witches, you know, Salem and all that stuff.
Well,
Witches of Salem.
from living in Indonesia and from my trip to the Amazon, there are all kinds of spirits out there. You can't deny it. If you're in an environment where people actually count on that, it's palpable. I mean, it's absolutely palpable.
Can you squeeze ghosts? Can you squeeze ghosts? Can you squeeze ghosts?
I never tried.
No.
Give them a little,
Not easily.
a little noogie.
I don't think I would try.
I'm a skeptic by nature, and so if you ask me flat out, do I believe in ghosts, I'd probably say no. On the other hand, if you put it into the language of a metaphysical philosopher who are some of the people who are writing about the origins of things, there are universes within us that just change the language a little bit. Instead of ghosts bumping into each other, you have atoms, protons, quarks, you have all sorts of spirits inside of things that are manifestly real. And who knows how many alternate universes that we might be inhabiting right now. I mean, so it's not necessarily irrational thinking, it's just we characterize it when it's not ours as a superstition.
If you will, of the man who mistook his wife for a hat or whatever the title, his entire work, I can't say his name right.
Sachs.
Oliver Sacks, yeah.
Oliver Sacks, yeah. And his most recent book, I think, is entitled Hallucinations. And it's an interesting catalog of the kinds of things that are possible. You know, even a person like myself can have a religious experience. And I definitely remember having that religious enlightenment when I was a kid, you know, and it was just a mental phenomenon that happened long, long ago, but it's the sort of thing that does happen to people. There's a little disruption in mental activity and so on. Can be interpreted however you want to interpret it.
The long tail in my poem is entanglements, the physics theory of entanglement and how.
Well, I mean, that's the notion of a fluttering of a butterfly wing will change the whole universe. Everything's changed by
Everything
butterfly.
is changed by everything else, and I can't even imagine that.
It's the web of life,
Madeline L'Engle writes wonderful books about the changes and I can't remember all of it, but she wrote books supposedly for children, but that's not what they were. My kids, especially my daughter, love them, and I still do. I read them sometimes.
Susan Cooper is the same way. She took some Gaelic and stuff in it, and this we cannot. I mean, to try to comprehend the physics, you know, with the quarks and atoms and other different constituents of protons and neutrons and electrons, and they all fit together, and they all do the jimmy jammy, and they have, suddenly we are there, and we are made up of those things, and we don't know really
And now
how.
they are born and they die.